You said you find Catholicism more convincing than Orthodoxy. Why? I always find this odd. Why?
Well, I am a Groyper after all. I listen to Nick, but I don't get my Catholic faith from Nick. I kind of just got the spark from
political stuff is.
No. I've more gotten it from Trent Horn and Sam Shamoon and guys like that.
Okay, so what would be one or two arguments that they present for the Catholic position that is more consistent or more convincing than the Orthodox position?
I feel like that I think that the papacy is the best way to, and you know, I'm a Mormon, and so there's actually a little bit of there's a thing that Mormons and Catholics can agree on. Funnily enough,
being in cults.
Well, that's a good one. But I would say that having a leader, having authority of your beliefs, and having someone that is infallible.
Okay.
And I'll finish with this, and I'll let you respond. But in my mind, I think that there has to be someone that is infallible to interpret the Bible, which is also infallible. If you don't have someone that is infallible to interpret something that is purpose, something that is, you know, as Protestants would say, you know, God breathed, then it comes into interpretation between this guy and that guy.
I understand. So you're going to say that about so the Pope does that, but how does that actually help you on an individual basis when you're still fallible and you now got to interpret all the papal documents? So how is it not just moving the problem back a step?
It doesn't, and I kind of for me, I want to be. Personally, I want to know every single thing about the traditional churches, and
but aside from all that, a more fundamental question is what I'm asking, which is, okay, so you're saying I want a guy who's going to be the arbiter, who can, you know, tell me the right interpretation, and I'm saying, isn't that begging the question and just moving the problem back a step? Because now you are going to be interpreting the Pope's words about the scriptures. So how does that solve that dilemma? I don't understand.
Sorry, you cut out. I don't know if it happened to anyone else, but you cut out.
I said, how does it solve the dilemma by just adding another step to the equation and saying that the Pope is going to solve the interpretive issues? Well, don't you have to interpret all the papal writings, which are voluminous?
Well, it's very hard for me because I look at this is the reason that I can easily break through or kind of say why I came to at least like a Catholic reasoning is because I listened to all of the Protestant positions on, you know, infant baptism or, you know, water baptismal regeneration. Or
well, how does that prove Catholicism? How does that prove?
You believe in the Marian dogmas?
How does that prove Catholicism? I mean, if a Christian loses a debate to a Muslim, does that make Islam true?
Well, but the problem is that when you look at, I came to Catholicism because I understood that Protestantism didn't really hold any water because they don't have any authority to say, well, should we baptize infants? Should we even have baptism at all? Should it be through water? Should it be through a handshake? Should we confirm?
Okay, but how does that tell you? How does that tell you the difference between the Orthodox and the Catholic? So Protestants are wrong. Agreed. And how does that tell you Catholicism is true?
It doesn't.
Okay.
I'll admit that. Like, okay. I don't think it does.
Now, you're a Groyper, so as a Groyper, I'm curious. I mean, when Francis goes and prays in the synagogues, how does that make Catholicism convincing? I don't understand.
when you said when Pope Francis
and John Paul II, when they go and pray in the synagogues, how is that consistent with what you're looking for?
I mean,
every Groyper I've ever seen is pretty critical of rabbinical Judaism, right?
Personally, I don't think that he should be doing anything in a synagogue because in a synagogue they believe that in a completely heuristical view of monotheism, which is anti-Trinitarianism.
Absolutely. By the way, but have you read Vatican II?
I have not. No.
Oh, okay. Because guess what? Vatican II, turns out you're going to be in another situation of what you were just talking about with the Mormons, where you join it and then, it turns out you actually got to believe this other thing, because in Lumen Gentium 16 it says that Muslims hold the faith of Abraham just like Roman Catholics do, and that they all worship the same God. Nostra Aetate says the exact same thing. So if what you said is correct, that Jews do not have the right faith because they're, quote, monotheist and not Trinitarian, then you are now refuting and rejecting Vatican II, which says that exact thing.
Well, yeah, and you got to give me a little bit of grace and charity, though, because I haven't looked it up.
I'm being charitable.
No, I think that you are. And, I'm not, I think that you bring up a lot of good points. And, I've watched you, I've watched debates that you're in. I think that you're very knowledgeable. And I completely 100%, I don't disregard anything that you said. I think that I'm not ideologically prepared for a discussion on Vatican II.
That's fine. I'm not trying to trap you. I'm not trying to trap you. I'm just trying to make the point that the very thing that you expressed concern about originally in the debate, which I think is a very profound point, which is that sometimes groups will give the impression that when you convert, it's just these simple things that you have to believe, and then you later find out, no, there's actually also these other things that you also got to believe that are problematic that they didn't tell you about initially, like Pearl of Great Price, Doctrine and Covenants, etc. These things are later added on. And I'm telling you that it's the exact same thing when you join the Roman Catholic Church. You're going to learn that you do not get the right to reject or criticize anything that's dogmatic or proposed as belief. And all the ecumenical councils in the Roman Catholic Church are papally approved and thus dogmatic, including Vatican I and Vatican II. And so you don't get the option to reject Lumen Gentium 16 or Nostra Aetate 4, which is very problematic, I would argue. So not trying to call you out or whatever. I'm just encouraging you to not fall into the exact same thing. And I appreciate your questions. We're going to move on. That you will experience as well. And I say that as a person who was in the TradCat world for around 8-10 years, somewhere in there.